Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Paranormal Among Us. We have a great show lined up for you today. Coming up a little later on is Dana Stricker will be joining me. She's a psychic medium from up in Wisconsin. Very excited to talk to her. I'm always excited to talk to mediums. They're very interesting to me for one reason or another. But we'll be talking with Dana here in a few seconds. I want to let you know first, May 18th. Into the 19th from 11 a.m. till 2 a.m. We will be at Ashmore Estates over in Ashmore, Illinois. This is put on by After Dark Paranormal and Blondes and the Booze. We're going to have guest speakers. We're going to have a pizza dinner and a ghost hunt too. That's what I'm looking forward to, is the ghost hunt. Tickets are $85. I'll be there. You see on the screen Robin Terry, Josh Hurd. You're going to have Kristen Brandy from the Blondes and the Booze, and After Dark Paranormal will be there as well. So email on the bottom of the screen, blondesandbooze@gmail.com, or you can send it to me, paranormalamongus72@gmail.com, and we can get you there. So get your tickets now. Also, if you guys have a paranormal story that you would like to share, email me at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com, or if you want to be a guest on the show, go ahead and send me that email. And I'll have that on the bottom of the screen, as well as Dana's contact. So without further ado, I am going to welcome Dana Stricker to the show. Dana, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Staying warm up in Wisconsin there?
Yep. Now we're in fog because it's warmed up a little bit too much, too fast from last week. But eventually we'll be able to see the sun again. It usually happens around spring.
I haven't
way to go yet, but
haven't seen the sun in weeks here. Here in St. Louis, but I think all of our stuff is moving up towards you. We had fog like crazy. Yeah, you're welcome. You know,
what a guy.
It's going to clear up though. I mean, it cleared up later on today, but so welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time. You're traveling now, so I appreciate you taking the time there. You're heading down to Texas.
I am. I'm headed down to the Lone Star Paracon.
Nice.
The Kling brothers are the ones running it. They do great events, and this is the first one in Texas, like of this kind, in their area. So we're pretty excited about it because it's right outside of San Antonio. So that'll be good. I love San Antonio, Texas. So
awesome. Hey, it's warmer than Wisconsin, so that's
it is. It wasn't last week. They also got snow, believe it or not. But I think they're going to be in the 60s, they said. I'll take it.
Yeah, no kidding. Unfortunately, you have to go back to Wisconsin, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Don't remind me. I'm not even gone yet. Don't remind me.
Hey, I'm staying here in St. Louis, so I mean, at least you get to get out and see some warm weather. So
yes, I do.
Anyway, let's get into the show. You are a psychic medium, correct?
I am, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it says you've been a psychic medium for all your life.
Well, yeah. I was born weird, I always say. My mom has some pretty good stories from when I was very, very young, like tiny. I started talking to people that quote unquote weren't there when I was like 2, 3, 4 years old.
Really?
And I was never told they didn't exist. So my mom would never say things like, there's no such thing as ghosts. It was like, oh, what is he wearing? Oh, what are they talking about? And so I'd tell her, and it just was not abnormal to me. I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
My dad was Irish Catholic, and there was a lot of Hail Marys that were said during the course of my childhood, because it kind of went against the grain of the things that he had been brought up believing. Right. But I am what I am. So
yeah.
I started reading professionally when I was 15. So I've been around for a while.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, you said you started talking to people really early in your life. Yep. So I have a kind of an odd story that my son, I don't remember how old he was, maybe 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. So actually, to set this one up, and we'll get back to the questions here in a few seconds, but I kind of wanted to run this by you to see if my son is weird or not. Um,
We're
he,
all weird.
my my father-in-law died less than a month before our wedding, and he used to be a smoker.
Oh,
So one day, my son was in our bedroom or whatever, and I don't know what my wife and him were talking about, but they were talking about her dad, my father-in-law. And my son looked up like, "Oh, you're talking about the guy that's sitting over there with a puffer in his mouth?"
there's no way he'd
I
know
mean,
that.
no.
The
I mean,
puffer.
right. I mean, no, he wouldn't know what a puffer was, and he was what, maybe 4 years old. I'm not sure. But I mean, is that kind of something like what happened to you in the beginning, or?
Yeah, it's very much what happened to me in the beginning. I think it happens to a lot of children.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, just from doing this for so long, I guess I base it on my own experience, but I've also worked with children.
Mm-hmm.
Parents will call and I'll talk to the kids. It's very benign. It's not scary. It's just certain things that just
Right.
to kind of try to ascertain what's going on. Um, and I really do believe that when we are born, we are probably seeing a lot more spiritually
Mm-hmm.
and likely seeing people that aren't there, hearing people that aren't there to others. And then, as our parents, of course, will tell you, most parents, and because they are trying to protect their child or comfort their child, will
Mm-hmm.
say things like, there's no such thing as ghosts, or no, you're not seeing that, you were dreaming, or eventually society starts with our parents
Mm-hmm.
with good intentions, obviously, our parents, but then
Right.
it leaks into society where it's a little bit too odd or strange or whatever. That's changing now. But
Mm-hmm.
like when I was that age, I can't see my mom going out and telling people, oh, my daughter talks to a guy in our dining room every day. I mean, the ideas changed, but it didn't change in the house. So again,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was abnormal that some random guy was standing in the dining room watching us eat every night. That's a
That,
true ghost. That's one of the first ones I ever saw.
that's
So
weird.
that's yeah, I know. You're not gonna tell me. Um, but it was actually I found out we sort of may have pieced together an identity on that guy too, and that just happened like last year after all
Really?
those years. Yeah, it's pretty
Wow.
interesting story. Um, but yeah, I think kids in general come out more psychic. I believe everybody is born psychic. I don't care where you're from, what religion you are, whatever. Psychic
Yeah.
ability, from my personal experience, boils down to a survival instinct, a gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you start thinking pretty hard about somebody you haven't thought about in 25 years, there's no reason you should be thinking of this person. 2 days later, you're hearing from them or something about them. That's not coincidence.
Yeah.
That's because you had an inkling from somewhere that was coming into play. And people like to downplay it and be like, oh, it's so coincidental. It's like, is it though? Is it really? So,
I was just thinking about you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And here you are. Or
Yeah.
or they call you or something. You hear something about it. But I think children don't have those distractions that adults do either. So they're likely, if he said he saw somebody there,
Mm-hmm.
I would be very shocked if he wasn't seeing that person. That's
I've
just
also
me.
I've also heard that younger kids under like 5 or something, they're, I guess,
Mhm.
so pure and innocent or whatever, that they see more stuff like that.
I think that's true. I
Yeah.
don't think they have the prejudice. Again, I'm using that word in that respect that they
Right.
don't really get it. They're not trying to piece together who that man is. That man's always
Mm-hmm.
been there in the dining room, as far as I was concerned.
Mm-hmm. And as far as I know, at that time, he didn't know about my father-in-law. Just knew that my wife had a dad that is no longer around, but I don't know if he knew anything about
I
cigarette
mean,
smoking or anything.
unless he like had a
'Cause
picture in his room of him holding onto a puffer,
no,
how would he ever know about a puffer? That's the
right,
real key right
exactly,
there. That's
exactly.
it's like an identifier that was being
Yeah,
shown.
yeah,
So I'm
very
gonna go with
interesting.
yes, that's who it was.
Yeah,
Just from what you've
and
told.
as far as I know, we don't. Well, yeah, we have, yeah, but yeah, it's probably. I mean, my wife has felt her dad around the house and everything. So I'm sure that he's with us and stuff. So yeah, cool. Anyway, let's
Yep.
get back to this. So I've talked to a lot of mediums, psychic mediums, spiritual mediums. What exactly is the difference with all those?
In layman's terms, so I'm not talking to anybody like they're dumb or anything, but
Right.
the easiest way I describe it to people when they ask me that is so psychic ability is like things that you sense about the past, present, or future. They're probably not about, you might sense like, oh, you went through a death in the family or something to that effect, but
Hmm.
you're not necessarily seeing or talking to the person that died. So
Hmm.
that's mediumship. Psychic ability is like the ability to see certain things, but you're not necessarily communicating with the dead. Does that make sense?
Right.
So if you're a medium, you are literally speaking to spirit that's either sitting across from you, coming in through sound.
Hmm.
Some people only hear, some people hear and see. You know, everybody's different on
Right.
their mediumship abilities, but it's that's the difference between the two is like you might get an impression as a psychic that you might not see the person, but you'll know, let's say your father passed. So,
Hmm.
for instance, did your father pass when you were 5? Let's just throw that out there.
Right.
That a psychic might pick up on, but they're not talking to the father. They're getting
Okay.
image from something else. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
it's a little confusing, but it when you work with it like I do, there's a very clear distinction between the
Right.
two. So,
Gotcha.
so
Very
like,
interesting.
there's people that say they're evidential mediums, which means you're really not supposed to use that particular tag unless you've been to a spiritualist school and tested
Hmm.
out on that, meaning that you're giving very specific evidentiary things to people like identifiers like the puffer like your son had.
Hmm.
That would be something, or his name was Bill and this is what he did or what have you. um
I would have been completely shocked if you would have said his real name.
yeah. I bet you would have been.
Yeah.
But um it's again, it differs from person to person. I have never been to any of the schools. Some spiritual mediums, for instance, go to spiritualist schools. I am
Hmm.
enrolled at one right now.
Hmm.
I've been enrolled for a couple years, and I'm finally actually going to do it. I just haven't had time, um,
Hmm.
because I'm more curious about the different steps in spiritualism because I was born this way, so I never
Hmm.
studied it. Um, I think you either have to have it or you don't. I don't know how learned it can be, but
Right.
I'm sure somebody else would disagree with me on that.
I
That
would think it would be more of being able to harness the ability and to hone it more
hmm
than learning it, I guess.
hmm
Or I guess,
Well,
well,
I can
maybe
say like
even
psychic
good.
ability is like a muscle. So the more you use it, the stronger it gets. If you don't use it
Right.
that much, it's going to be a weak muscle. So
Yeah.
it's all mediumship's a little bit different. I don't know.
Hmm.
I haven't had that experience, which is why I want to go to one of those schools because I
Yeah.
want to know exactly how this is all working.
Do you like when you're doing readings and stuff, and then
hmm
when you step out of that and you're just Dana, is there like a way that you turn that off, or do
No,
you just always walk around
there's
and hey,
not.
look, I sent somebody here.
Yeah, and see that's another thing is like being a very young age when this all kind of started for me.
Hmm.
And I started reading at 15. That was back in the 80s. There wasn't any guidance back in the 80s that I had access to in the small town I grew up in. So I'm
Hmm.
kind of like, I just do it the way that I've always done it, the way that it worked for me personally.
Hmm.
Um, to try to retrain me at now I'm 55. If you try to like teach me a new way now, I don't know how that's going to work. I'm willing to try it, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with how I am now.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's other psychic mediums out there too that, we never went to a particular school or took particular classes with a particular person. We never did any of that. I just didn't have access to that kind of stuff. That doesn't make us less. It just gives us a different,
Right.
we go at things differently than other
Right.
people do.
Gotcha.
It's
Gotcha.
like a coping mechanism when you're a little kid and you're seeing people all over the place that nobody else can. Once you figure that out, it gets a little, it's a lot for a
I
kid.
can see that being a little much for a kid.
Mhm. Yeah.
What was your this is going to sound like a therapy session here. What
Tell
was
me,
your like?
Dana.
Go lay down and then we'll talk.
You're right.
What was your? I mean, your childhood growing up with this. What was that like for you?
I have a very vivid recollection of early childhood, which
Uh-huh.
automatically is weird in itself. So I remember I was still in diapers, for instance, and my family was still living in Milwaukee, which is where I was born. And I remember I was able to sit up. So whatever age that is, one, like in diapers,
Yeah.
sitting up, like whatever, hanging out. I had
Hmm.
my legs sticking out of the crib. I was holding onto the bars of the crib. And I remember this very clearly. Oh, this is hilarious. I'm in jail. And I was like shaking the bars like this and laughing hysterically. And my mom came in like, "What are you doing?" This baby's and they're like, "Ah." And I just thought I was highly amused that I was in jail. Now, this was 1970 if I was 2.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't watching TV at that point, not that
How would you
young.
know what jail was? Yeah.
I didn't know what jail was, but how did I know what jail was? So
Yeah.
I don't know what that was about, but that's a memory. In fact, they have a picture of me doing it. My
Wow.
mom took a picture of me because I kept doing it. Apparently, I thought it
Wow.
was great fun. So, um,
Yeah.
that's kind of when I started with it. And then there was other stuff like the guy in the dining room that was that same house. There
Uh-huh.
was something upstairs in my sister and I's bedroom that I remember being in it was an older home in Milwaukee and it had closets almost like that lined it was an old house. So it would have been like an attic area almost behind the bedroom.
Hmm.
There was something hanging out in there. I mean, I just remember all that stuff. It's bizarre. There's something with the staircase in that house. I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ever
So it
find
was
out if
like
any,
right away.
did you ever find out if somebody died in your old house or?
We did not. No, we never. That wasn't something people did. I
Yeah,
guess.
back then. Yeah.
That the guy in the corner, though, I'll tell that super quick, and this is a very condensed version of it. Um, that guy would always show up. He always wore a Havana shirt. Do you know what those are?
Hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know this at the time because I was a little kid. They're
Hmm.
called Havana shirts, and they're like a cotton dress shirt, and they have like embroidery down the front, like around the buttons, but it's
Right.
usually the same color as the shirt, so it's real subtle.
Hmm.
He'd always be wearing one of those shirts and a pair of tan pants, and he was in the corner of the dining room, and he had dark hair, and he would never say anything. He would just stand there every night. He was there every night. And I would always comment to my mother. And of course, she would say, "What shirt is he wearing?" Because the color of the shirt changed. That was it.
Hmm.
So all these years go by many, 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 many years. Last year,
Hmm.
we were talking about it. I go, "You remember the guy?" Because I was looking for that picture, actually. This is why it came up. And I said, "Do you remember the guy I used to talk to in the corner?" I said, "There was always a guy watching us in the dining room." She goes, "Yeah, I remember that." And she goes, "What was his deal anyway?" Like asking if I knew now. I'm like, "I don't know. I'm not there." But I said, she goes, "Describe him to me again." So I did. And I said, "I'm pretty sure he was Cuban." I said, "He had a Havana shirt on. He had dark hair. I don't know why. I just know he was Cuban." This is like last year. I think I said this to her.
Hmm.
And she went, "What?" She goes, "Do you remember our neighbors?" I said, "Yeah, Blondie and Rudy." That was their name. It sounds like a cartoon character
Blondie
thing.
and Rudy. It does.
Blondie and Rudy in Milwaukee with Laverne and Shirley. I mean, seriously, could you get better names? So um, I said, "Yeah, I remember them, but they were like 500 years old to me when I was that age. I don't know how old they
Yeah.
actually were, probably my age now, but they seemed really elderly." And she goes, "Dana, Rudy was Cuban." And I go,
Really?
"Whoa." I said, "Do you think that was maybe a relative that had the wrong house or came to me because I could see him?" We don't know
Wow.
that. I can't prove that
Yeah.
because Rudy's got to be gone, man. He'd be like way
1,000
old,
years old.
pretty near. But now, I just never put it together until I was an adult that I thought
Yeah.
he was Cuban. And then that all happened. I had no idea. Rudy does not sound Cuban to me.
No. Neither
Ruben,
does
but not Rudy.
Blondie. Yeah.
Blondie was not. If she
Oh.
was Cuban, she had a good colorist because she was blonde, big blonde. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of weird little tiny things like that sometimes. And how 50 years later, plus
Yeah.
50, however old I was, that's pretty crazy that all came to pass, that I figured at
Mhm.
least part of the puzzle out, or
Yeah.
maybe that's why he was over at our house
Yeah.
looking for a medium, and I'm a baby, not much help. So
Well, he found one. I mean,
he did. I just was like, oh, he's wearing a red shirt. Oh, he's probably like this stupid kid. But
maybe he knew that you would figure it out when you were older, and you just now got his message.
because their time is funky up there, man. It's
It's like the U.S.
frequency.
Post Office. You'll eventually get
Yeah.
it.
hmm
Did I
There's a
say that? I'm
frequency
sorry.
thing that goes on because when I hear them speak,
Mhm.
it's so fast, and you only catch like every second or third word. So I might get like the nest birds, and then I
Mm.
get images that fill in between that. But I'm actually hearing this. Bzzz. It's like fast forward on a tape recorder from back in the
Oh yeah,
day.
yeah.
It's
Oh, good old
bizarre.
tape recorders. I remember those.
Yeah, remember back when?
Yeah.
I have a feeling
When
you're a lot younger than
I'm
me. Yeah, so
no, I'll be 52 this year, so I'm just a few
okay, then
years younger than you. So I
you know
remember all that
exactly what
stuff.
I'm talking about when
Yeah,
you used to have to
exactly.
tape the songs off the radio. Try not
Oh
to get
yeah.
there.
I
Yeah.
remember many days when I was grounded, I would be sitting in my room with my boombox and just
Yeah.
waiting to hit record. Yeah. What are you doing? I'm making a mixtape. Leave me alone. I'm grounded.
Get out. This is for
Yeah.
my girl, man.
Those were the days.
But
You didn't
yeah,
have internet to deal with, and
nope.
yeah.
But it started really young for me, I guess. And then when we moved to the town I live in now, actually, moved back there after my divorce. I moved back to the town I grew up in with my
Mhm.
son.
Mhm.
And there was stuff that happened at that house too. And then that's where the bed would vibrate, it would bang up and down.
Ooh.
Microwaves. During my early teens, I blew up 2 microwaves and a toaster just walking into the kitchen with a little TKR that was going on.
Yeah.
The whole telekinesis thing that happens around
Wow.
that age. And yeah, I wasn't real popular with my father during that time period.
No.
Because
I
microwave ovens weighed like 9,000 pounds and were expensive when they first came out.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
got, I still say I didn't do that. I think that was something else.
Electrical issue. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was an electrician though, so it
Uh,
probably wouldn't have flown. But so there's just been weird stuff my whole life. And it's been, off and on. I stopped reading for a while. Every time I'd stop reading, I would get a back full of scratches, which is attention seeking. It's not evil or anything. I've never had
yeah.
anything happen that way, knock on wood. Um, but they definitely let me know when I did stop that that wasn't really cool with them. So I
Really?
would, yeah, I'd have just a back full of these. It almost looked like as thin as like the end of a pin, not
Uh-huh.
like a cat nail. It would be thinner than that even, but like
Yeah.
copious amounts of them on my back and shoulders. And
Really?
that was
That's
all the way through grade. It still happens actually. If I don't
wow.
stay on track, apparently, or something. I don't know why.
The
Just a
spirits
lot of
must
people
really
wanting
like
to say
you.
something.
Yeah.
Or dislike me, depending on what you think. I think it's the
Yeah.
latter. I think they like me. I mean, I hope.
Well,
I think I would be.
if nothing bad has happened to you, I would think that they like you then. I mean,
I had like a lot of night terror stuff, which of course doctors will tell you is just a thing. Well, it was preceded by my bed shaking, and
Uh-huh.
there was a lot of really scary things that happened. Um, like the oppressiveness and like feeling like something was laying on top of me, and the only thing, it was just, and that went on for years. I would hear people, I would hear things in the living room of our house. That was another thing I was right about. I kept telling my dad I kept hearing big band music and people talking and like furniture moving in our living room, which was carpeted, and it was a 1970s style ranch house. No room for all of that.
Shag
So
carpeting.
it was like a green, like moss, like weird texture. It wasn't shag though.
Oh, okay.
Thank
I had
God.
shag carpeting growing up.
My uncle had some pretty groovy shag when I was growing
Yeah.
up, but we didn't have that.
Yeah.
But we found out when we went to sell that house, we were buying
Mhm.
another house in the same town, selling my childhood house. The realtor guy came and he was from town. We're all a bunch of townies. And he's like, "Oh, I remember playing softball down here in the
Mhm.
subdivision." I said, "Why?" He goes, "No, it was the park when I played ball here. The park had been moved at this
Yeah.
point, long time before I got there." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, your house actually sits right where the band shell was. They used to have like big band music there back in the day." And I'm like, I wish my dad was alive to hear that.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's a
Wow.
true story too. That was probably about 12 years ago. So all that stuff that happened to me when I was little, sometimes I get an answer, like a verification that I wasn't
All these
like
years later.
making it
Wow.
up or, being a wacko with it. No,
Yeah.
the band shell sat where my house sat. Big band music
Wow.
was what I was hearing, and of course there'd be chairs moving and
Yeah.
people
People
talking, and
dancing and yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a good story too. I forgot about that one. But I
That's
probably
fun.
have 800 of those. They're just little tiny, it's
Uh-huh.
getting that verification. It's not really like it's so profound, like it's going to change the world, but it's profound enough to me to know that I was on to something,
It'll
It's
maybe not
interesting.
change your world, but it's a huge aha moment, maybe.
It's a very big aha moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might be kind of weird when you're talking to somebody and they mention something like that, and you're like, "Yeah, I remember that."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Makes me wonder what I've forgotten over the years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember that much. I don't remember some of the stuff, but yeah, it's an interesting way to grow up. Anyway,
Oh, I bet. I bet. I bet. And it says you do missing persons cases, missing
yes, yep,
persons
I have.
cases.
I don't do them like I know there's some really really great psychic mediums that do them more often than I do them.
Right.
I will work if I'm contacted directly. I don't like if I'm contacted by a family member of the person, like like a sister, for instance, or something,
Hmm.
I'll work it. Or if a police officer from the family, like I'll triage with that. Um, and I just started doing it maybe I would say like 8 to 10 years ago. I don't really remember when the first one was, and I would start doing it by like I could see something on the news, and I'd be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
he's face down in a creek. He froze to death," and I was right. And
Wow.
that just kept going. Or I'd watch the news, and that's how I started figuring out, why am I getting this? Like, how am I getting that? It was just coming, was watching the news. This guy was missing, blah blah blah, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is what happened. He was inebriated. He went blah blah blah, fell down. He
Mhm.
fell face first into this creek bed thing that was frozen, but he died there." That
Yeah.
was one. That was yeah.
Wow.
So then there were different ones that came in from different parts of the country. And I think I've probably been working on like probably 8 or 9 in the last like a long time.
Right.
It's a lot of responsibility. You want to make sure, if I don't get anything, I'm not going to say, try here. I'm going to make this up. Go here.
Yeah.
If I don't get anything, I just say, I don't get it. I don't have anything for you.
Yeah.
Um, but when I do hit it, I hit it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, but fortunately for the families, Um, I'm much better at finding them, unfortunately, when they are deceased, as opposed to missing and like kept somewhere just by
Hmm.
choice missing. I don't really have a lot of luck with that. But I just
Uh,
try to bring them back to their families more than anything else.
yeah. How do you um, how do you get the sense of these people with, I mean, with meeting with the families or
Mm-mm.
just by seeing them on the news or?
Um, One of the ones that I worked was out east. This was probably my biggest biggest deal one, if you
Mhm.
want to call it that. Still ended in tragedy, but we found her. Um, I was contacted by a best friend. I'm going to skip saying the state because I don't want anybody bugging anybody over there.
Don't, yeah. I mean, leave out
Uh,
state, leave out names and stuff. That's,
yeah,
yeah.
she was a known drug user,
Mhm.
and but she was also a mom, and she had given her children to her mother full time to take care of. But every day this girl would go home before things began
Mhm.
for her for the day, if you know what I mean. And she would get them breakfast and spend time with her children when she was sober. Every day she did this, but she knew she couldn't take them on. So she was trying.
Right.
And then one day she didn't come. And the next day she didn't come. And they knew something was going on because she never missed this.
Right.
So this was right before COVID. This all went down. In fact, it was right after the shutdown that I started working on it. So they were telling me, we know she's somewhere. We're pretty convinced she's passed, but the cops haven't found her and they've given up basically because she was a known drug user. And it was kind of like, who knows? She
Yeah.
went somewhere else or something. So the interest kind of plummeted for this family. So they said, can you help? So yes. So I don't need to know. I didn't ask for names. I don't want any of that. As long as
Mhm.
I have a contact, I just go in. It's like remote viewing. I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
Uh-uh.
Being able to read from a distance. So I don't have
Okay.
to be in the state. I don't have to be in the country necessarily to go in and look. I just have to be in contact with somebody that is in the know. I don't know how else
Right.
to explain it.
That's like doing
So
doing a reading over the internet or phone or something like
right.
that. Right.
So
Okay.
I did something initially and with nothing. I really didn't have much. And I could hear a lawnmower. I could and I'm like, she's under a pine tree. She's got dirt in her mouth and some pine needle. I remember it distinctly. I could taste the pine needle. Um and then I said, you're gonna find a sweater. It's like a summer sweater. And of course everybody laughs at me. What's a summer sweater? Or it's just really loosely knitted, so it's like a crochet, and you just kind of throw it over the top of something.
Yeah.
Kept seeing this like on the ground. So this is what I told her. And she told the cops, and they were like, really? So they sent somebody. Apparently, what I described was kind of an area she knew about, and they found the sweater. Once they found the sweater, they had to reopen it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's when I got the call. And they had to reintroduce the dogs, which is they were trying not to do that. So they took dogs out with the sweater, trying to find
Mhm.
her. Didn't find her. In the meantime, another friend of mine who is also a psychic medium was doing a hypnotism thing over the internet, and it was COVID. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. She gave it to me. I'll do
Mhm.
it. So I'm supposed to be like doing this for me, right?
Mhm.
You're in a field, everything's peaceful, or whatever we were doing. Well, I didn't do that. I ended up in front of this school building talking to this girl, and she's like, oh, she's like, I'm back there, and she's pointing like beyond the school, but I'm looking at the school, and it was old, and it had the
Mhm.
date of the school above the door. And I'm being hypnotized during this. Not about that, just this is how it happened.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my god." I'm like, "I think this is that girl that's missing." Like my normal brain was responding like, "Wow, this is bizarre." So I was going to go into the school and she goes, "You can't go in there. You can't go in that way. You can't go in there." And I'm like, "Okay." And then things blah 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 blah. I come out
Mm.
of this thing and I'm like, "I better write this down." But I wasn't confident enough with it to like contact this family because I thought I was being hypnotized and this came to me. I just feel like I should be wearing a turban with a
Yeah.
jewel in my head. So I was like, eh. Well, about a day or two later, I got another message from the friend. And she's
Uh-huh.
like, "Have you come up with anything?" And I was like, "Yeah, not really." And then I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you better tell her."
Yeah.
So I told her about the school. I told her what it looked like. And she was like, "Hang on a minute." I'm like, "Okay." She actually videoed herself. She drove to the school. That was the school
Really?
that I saw. That's the town she lived in. And I said, "Well,
Wow.
she said she was back there." And she goes, "I know where she's talking about because there's a trailer back there where known drug users go to shoot up or do
Mhm.
whatever they do. But it's
Mhm.
right on top. It's like right on the property line between the school and like a private yard."
Mhm.
They finally got permission to go in there and didn't find her. So I'm like, "I'm really sorry, but that's what she told me." And I didn't see a trailer. I was just said over that way. So I think it was maybe 2 months after that, they did find her back there, but she was further up the hill, face down, mouth was full of dirt and pine needles. She OD'd.
Wow.
So they did find her much later
Later?
than I would think they would, but it took a while, but they did find
Yeah.
her. And she was under a pine tree. She must have at some point sat down at that other pine tree and taken that sweater off, which is the first thing I
Mhm.
saw.
Mhm.
But what intrigued me is she did have the dirt with the pine needle
And then you
in her
could
mouth.
taste the pine needle. Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean,
So it was good
it
for her that I got her home to her kids, so they have some place to visit their mom. That
yeah.
their
I
mom
mean,
just
it
didn't
wasn't
leave
a
them, you
yeah.
know?
I mean, it wasn't a happy ending. You didn't find her, but
Mhm.
I mean, alive, that is. But, I mean, you gave the family closure, like you said, there's a place to visit mom.
Yep, and, I give that her spirit or her a lot of credit for pursuing it to that extent because I was getting stuff on it, but it took her, like, coming to me in that respect
Mhm.
and being really direct. I was just not far enough up, like, the friend of hers was thinking it was this trailer, and it wasn't. She was beyond that by maybe a half mile or something like that, but she was definitely back where she pointed.
Wow.
So, it's not really me, it's her doing it. I
Well,
give
her
her a
through
lot of
you,
credit
yeah.
for coming through because it got
Yeah.
her home to kids, which is
Yeah.
the important part. So,
Yeah.
that's one of them.
That's
There's the
I mean,
other
that's
ones too, but that's the most profound for me was
yeah.
that one. And having done it all remote, you know, they were asking, "Have you ever been to this state before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did once with my mom, like quite a few years ago."
Yeah.
I'm not the one that put her under the tree, if that's what you're asking me,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I guess
but
they kinda since you knew where she knew a vicinity of where she was, then I
plus
guess
I found
they'd
the
have to
sweater initially too.
yeah.
Here I am in Wisconsin and this is out east, and how am I gonna know that?
Yeah. I
So,
guess yeah. I mean, I can understand that where they would question every little detail
mhm.
and
Oh, they
stuff, so,
should.
yeah. I mean,
They
yeah.
should.
Yeah.
Plus, you have a lot of people that will be like, "I worked on missing persons cases," or "I'm, this and that," and it becomes this big show about the psychic. It has nothing to do with the person that's missing, which
Mhm.
is why I don't like really go out. I mean, I'll talk about it on podcasts and stuff, but I don't like go out of my way to talk about it pretty much anywhere else
Yeah. And
unless
you
I'm
don't go
asked because
yeah.
it's not what
And you don't go out of your way
I don't
to
like some
to
people do it.
yeah. And you don't go out of your way to be on these missing cases.
No, because it's like I said, there's a
Yeah.
lot of responsibility behind that, and there's a lot of those are people's family members and lives, and that's a lot of responsibility, and you should be taking it that way. It's not
Yeah.
look how good you are at being a psychic. It's
Yeah.
How are you going to try to help this family find their family member somewhere?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean,
So
I understand where it would be a good to have a medium or somebody like that to help, but I mean that shouldn't be
there's
the
some very
first.
exceptional
Yeah.
ones
Hmm.
that really have great track records.
Yeah, I talked to another medium. I don't remember where she was. Maybe up in New Jersey. Um, that did that too, and she didn't really
Mhm.
go into any cases or anything like that. But I mean that to me, I would think that would be a really good feeling to know that you helped
It
find a
is.
dead or
Mhm.
alive, find this person and give the family some kind of peace.
And that's where I try to keep it. I don't try to make it about what me.
Yeah.
It's just try to keep it that the family got their person back because that's the best part of it.
Yeah.
Or at least they can figure out what happened maybe, or
Yeah. Yeah.
her kids know that she didn't just abandon them. That's the biggest thing.
Closure. Yeah.
Yep.
That's good. And you also do some ghost hunting too, correct?
I do. That's I think I did my first one when I was 19,
Uh-huh.
um, in a town pretty close to mine called Whitewater, Wisconsin. It's known as the second Salem
I
of the United States. Lots of witchcraft history or
okay.
supposed.
Uh-huh.
Actually it was a spiritualist college, but they called it the witches. And there might have been witches in there, like traditional, not like ride a broom with a pointy hat type of witch, but um
Yeah.
that's only on special occasions, but
That's their October.
yeah, it's not every day. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's the Morris Pratt Institute, which is the school I'm going to that I was just talking about before. That
Hmm.
started in Whitewater, Wisconsin. Um, and I forgot where, oh, the ghost hunting. That's where I started doing it because it's a college town. So there's a lot of old buildings. And I
Yeah.
remember the first one I got called to was I was working as a psychic at a store called Planets,
Okay.
very 80s. At Planets. Somebody came over and said, I live across the street. I've got this ghost in my house. It's like wrecking stuff. Want to come look? And I'm like, yeah. This
Hell
is way
yeah.
before taps and stuff. I don't know. So I
Yeah.
went over there and ended up discovering this picture in the very back room in the storage room. These are college kids, lived there for years and years and years. Well, they had taken this picture down of this woman, and it's an old antique picture that she lived there when it was probably built or whatever. And she was none too happy that that picture had been taken down, which was the issue at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
we didn't have nobody took tape recorders. Nobody, that just wasn't, it was more of like a little adventure that you would go
Yeah.
on. It has nothing like today. I think the biggest tech thing we did was a powder trap.
A powder
You know what
trap.
that is? You just
No.
take baby powder or whatever powder. I think in a pinch we used cornstarch once, anything that's powdery,
Yeah.
and you put it down and see if like handprints or a word or something gets written in
Huh.
there. Kind of leave it for a while. It's like a really old. Some people do it on the floor to see if there's feet. I mean,
Huh. I mean, that's makes sense. A lot
yeah,
cheaper than getting a lot of these ghost hunting equipment.
yeah. Well, nowadays, yeah,
Yeah.
especially. But even cameras, cameras weren't digital back in
No.
1988 or whatever it was, 89. You had your 35 millimeter that you're toting around. Nobody was doing that. It wasn't quite a thing that way yet, like it
Yeah.
is now. So
Couldn't
taps
really.
was
Yeah.
the
Couldn't
first
really take
show.
a big old tape recorder with you and just put that in your pocket or something.
Just a boombox.
Yeah. Okay, I'm
Will you
here.
hear
You're
me?
carrying it like this. Who wants to come out and talk?
Just let me turn. That'd be actually pretty funny to do that. But so yeah, it's old stuff and
Yeah.
nothing like it is now. No, it's quite the thing. But I
Yeah.
never had any. I still don't use that kind of stuff when I investigate. I don't like using meters, and I just
Yeah.
give me a digital recorder and a flashlight. I'm good. I don't
Yeah. I mean, that's really all you need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll know when they
great
come around.
If the temperature sinks and the EMF goes up and all that other stuff, but Snore City, I want to hear a voice. I don't want to take that kind of information down.
Yeah.
It dehumanizes it somehow to me.
Yeah.
That like makes me feel like they're acting like they're not people anymore because they've passed.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this energy wave. Someone's grandma, dude.
Yeah. You know, I'm going on this the hunt with on May 18th with Krista and Brandy and stuff. I'm gonna, if I see something like that's somebody's grandma.
You see, or somebody, or mom, or brother, or sister, or whatever. I mean, it's at some point that was a human being in a body. That the only difference is they lost theirs and we're trapped. That's nice and uplifting.
They're the ones that are freed. We're still here.
Pretty much.
So awesome. Well, Dana, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. This has been very interesting and very fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for asking me.
No problem. I'll make sure I take my boombox with me.
Please do.
I think I still have it, actually.
You should do that and have Brandy take a picture and then like post it and be like, my first ghost hunt, and then like have it like you wear the trench coat and be like that Say Anything.
Yeah.
That movie with John Cusack in it. I think that's what it was called.
I don't remember the name of it, but yeah.
Say anything. We'll set you up with an ad.
The wheels are turning.
See?
All right. All right, Dana. Thank you so much. I'm gonna put you backstage for a second. Don't go away.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks. Hang on 1 second. All right, Dana Stricker. That was fun. Talking psychic medium. If you want more information with her, Psychic Medium Dana is her website. You can get in touch with her that way if you want to do a reading or something. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. Remember, if you have any paranormal story that you would like to share, or if you would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com, and I will get back to you, and we'll get your story on. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. And until we meet again, I will see you in the next episode of Paranormal Among Us.